Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's great to be here. Herman's standing in front of a complaints desk at an airport with an exasperated, pretty pissed off, but clueless face. And the complaint staffer is talking to him and says, "Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've lost your luggage. We have no idea where it is. We're really sorry about the error. And to make up for our incompetence and our indifference, here's a voucher. Go to Carousel D and take any suitcase you like from flight 776. It's just come in from LA. Has anybody not dealt with a complaint in this office? In this room, I mean? Okay. When I agreed to take this on, when Ratna asked me, I was pretty chuffed to be part of this series, and I thought, oh, what a good idea. And then I spent weeks. I couldn't pare it down to less than 40 obtuse, long-winded ideas, and I became quite paralyzed. It's interesting, because I deal with complaints for a living. But this is entirely something of another magnitude, and it was very good for my sense of discipline about this. And I'm going to talk about these 5 good ideas, but I'm hoping there'll be lots of others generated, and I hope to hear feedback about what you think on these ideas. So I started my thinking by surfing the net, and it really falls into 2 different camps. Complainers are whiners, and complainers are courageous. And it was my friend Dave Meslin that pointed out to me that the difference between complaint and compliment is only one of 3 letters. They are actually 2 sides of one coin, one being an expression of discontent, the other of praise. And if we simply welcome complaints as freebies, as feedback that costs nothing, and the data can actually become a compliment as you improve or change your service. Of course, there are those of us who complain with only self-interest in mind. In fact, I think we've developed a bit of a dangerous habit of indulging ourselves by criticizing and moaning and groaning about everything that goes on around us. Some people are actually masters of that kind of negative judgment. And the fact is, it's much harder to create solutions, to discover new ways, to do what Edward de Bono calls design thinking. That's the trick. It's not the complaint, it's how you fix it that is much more challenging. But that said, even the most self-interested complaint is a gift. It's a gift because we may be able to make huge improvements, or small ones. The complaint to my office about a woman's tree that was cut down and she was charged $5,000 for the removal of the wood turned into a gift for citizens right across the city. Why was that? It transpired the woman had advanced Alzheimer's. She had no capability of understanding the city officials who just simply ignored them, her, and the outcome of our intervention was the creation of a citywide framework on how to deal with citizens with dementia and diminished capacity. So that small complaint about a specific tree turned into a much larger resolution. If I say nothing else today, it would be this: ignore complaints at your own peril. The surest way to keep a problem from being solved is to deny that it exists. We need only remember Alan Greenspan's comment and criticism of the financial community when he described it as irrational exuberance. Look what happened. The fact is, there are 3 roads to complaint results: litigation, negotiation, and designing a solution, as de Bono would say. And it's the latter that improves things. It's about fixing the problem for the greatest number of people and the common good. I actually believe that complaining takes a lot of courage. It requires an investment of time, and it's a sign that people care about something. It means people see a value, and it means that people believe that they might actually make a difference. They might be able to influence the system. You know that old dictum about you can't beat City Hall? We have about 1,500, 1,800 complaints every year. And it's not a question of beating City Hall, it's a question of improving what goes on at City Hall. So it does make a difference. It's also, I think, a healthy sign that democracy is at work. The fact is that the average person is disadvantaged when she complains. The public servant, the service provider, has superior knowledge, knows about the rules and procedures, has access to information that the average customer simply doesn't. We're so busy, we're so plugged in, and we're often afraid of offending somebody that we actually forget the power of a little righteous indignation. Stopping to talk about our experiences, whether they're good or bad, gives voice to others and hopefully makes it better for the next person. Complaints are a very powerful source of knowledge. They provide access to our citizens, customers, residents, whichever word you prefer. They provide access to information that only the citizen has, the consumer. They provide access to his or her knowledge and experience. And in the case of Toronto's local government, that's 2.7 million people. It's incredible if we really listen to all those folks who brought their complaints. The private sector, in some ways, has it right, offering the returns policy before you've purchased the product, putting the complaints contact information right on the product. As Dave Meslin told me, the back of a Kit Kat bar actually has a phone number where you can contact them if you've got a problem with your chocolate bar. That's how he began his advocacy work in his teens. He didn't like his chocolate bar. That said, I think we have to be very cautious about comparing the private and public not-for-profit sector. They're two different worlds, and the public sector will inevitably be put in a bad light. In that sense, it's not quite fair to compare because, frankly, public services, not-for-profit services, are much more complex, and they have to be measured through a lens of public interest, fiduciary stewardship, transparency, and so on. The metrics are quite different in the private sector. In fact, in the public sector, if you come up with a new approach and it fails, the criticism is endless. On the other hand, you come up with a new and successful approach, and citizens will say, well, if it's such a good idea, why didn't you do it before? Mostly, in the not-for-profit and public sector world, citizens, consumers, are passive recipients of the service that is mostly delivered in very uniform ways. But it doesn't have to be that way. If we stop privileging expert knowledge and welcomed complaints from people who've actually lived the experience, the power of change and improvement simply knows no bounds. People complain because the level or the manner of the service they have been offered, because of staff behavior, and because they're unhappy with a decision. In my experience, there is almost always learning and improvement to be done in all of those areas, even the decision. Public servants make decisions every day, and more often than not, they're quite correct. But you know what I find? It just wasn't quite explained in plain language. The time wasn't taken to explain to the resident whose English language might be their fourth or their fifth language, for example. It presents the opportunity, I think, to educate staff, to give one another feedback about how we can do things differently. Using complaints to increase performance is, in my view, just common sense. People don't like, it's perfectly natural, and I should have said this at the outset. Who in this room likes being criticized? I see a lot of hands up. Our immediate mode is to become defensive. It's about how we hear that criticism that becomes so important. That criticism really is vital information to you as service providers, as managers. It doesn't mean your staff has done something wrong. It just means that you need to hear what it is they're saying and how it is that it's not working. Had somebody come up to me before the session started And I said to her, I want to hear back from you, because the service didn't sound quite right from my office. Yes, guess what? We screw up too. Leadership has a number of challenges, I think, to integrate that consumer knowledge into our everyday business and processes, to challenge what the conventional wisdom is, to take risks. How many people at City Hall feel they can take risks without any retribution? Oh, not a lot of hands up there. We need to move. This is the most radical idea, at least in the public sector. Move the decision-making to where it belongs. Move it to the front line when there is a complaint. I had a classic shortly after I opened my office where the citizen was owed $15 had to go all the way up to the deputy city manager, whose response was, but we have a financial stewardship. Can you imagine how much money was spent writing emails and shipping it up the thing? When, by the way, there was no dispute, the citizen was owed the $15? Extraordinary. I think that we need to see complaints management in every organization, no matter how large or tiny it is, two-person office. We've got to be strategic about this. It's not just another administrative function. We have to pay as much attention to that as the obvious main mission kind of goals of your organization. We have a department at City Hall that put a complaints procedure in place. They advertised it on the website. Complaint came in, it went through the process, senior manager signed off the original decision maker without reviewing the original decision maker's review. All the boxes were ticked, it was checked off, the process was followed. Guess what? We have a complaint at the Ombudsman's office. Why? This manager didn't take the time to look at the complaint himself. Complaints create the opportunity for dialogue across hierarchy, manager to front line and back. It's a wonderful opportunity. Wonder how often it happens in large organizations. Senior managers need to develop a culture that values complaints as a way of putting things right. My own office publishes complaints about us once a year. I think it boosts public confidence. I'm happy to tell you there aren't very many, and I'm not so happy to tell you that we go through this gyration around, do we really want to publish this horrible complaint about us? But yes, we do. We need to. That's about transparency. It's about improvement of your service. There are a number of complaints that I look at out of the Ombuds office that have to do with poor complaint handling. And the result of that is a service failure, is unhappy citizens out there, customers, whatever your language is. A good complaint system can improve an agency's reputation. It can strengthen public confidence. But you have to pay attention to it. You have to actually really mean it when you put it in place. You have to be quick at it. You have to identify the priorities and make the opportunities for change. They really are an opportunity to complaints, to uncover problems in the system. And you've got to make it really easy to complain. The barrier has to be low so that complaints can be dealt with in real time. A variety of channels need to be open for complaining so that consumers can come forward. And you know, the way people in their 80s complain and the way 18-year-olds complain, as you know, is quite different. So you have to know that those channels, from Twitter to writing a letter in snail mail, they've all got to be available. None of them cost money. They cost resources, which, okay, the argument is that's money. But citizens, consumers need to be given immediate feedback. And then there are those where the fix is not quick. And in my experience, 9 times out of 10, if you get back to the person and you say, I'm not going to answer you for 60 days, they'll be okay. Why? Because you've told them what the expectation is. That's about managing the complaint volume. Empower your front line to be able to address those complaints. Give them the authority, give them the training, give them the education, and give them the tools. And here's the other thing. Don't be afraid of complaints going up. People are always telling me, we're an office of 10 serving 2.7 million people. Why do you go out and talk to groups like this? You're crazy. The complaints are going to go up. Well, there are two reasons I do it. One, I have a legal obligation to make sure that residents of Toronto know about this service. But two, because I think it's just a good thing to do. And if the complaints go up, so be it. Then I'll have fun at Budget Committee, won't I? Have somebody readily able to respond. Take lessons from the private sector. Some of them are good. Cisco is a director of customer listening. What a great idea. The American anthropologist Sarah Kendzior said, and I quote, "The absence of complaining should be taken as a sign that something is rotting in our society." I think it's a good quote. So we have to learn from, we have to act on the complaints, we have to put our complaint system on the website. If you don't have a website, put it on the front door of your office. Let people know where they can go. Invite people to come in. And don't discount social media. It's a good temperature gauge for checking issues early on. Often, concerns can get met at that level before they turn into complaints. Check your assumptions. We work with an expert mind, and that expert mind is coupled with biases, stereotypes, prejudice, our own upbringing, our own conditioning. I'm neutral. I have no biases. Baloney. We all do, everybody in this room. It's not about disavowing our prejudices. It's about understanding them. It's about knowing and acknowledging our own biases so that then we can actively listen and hear to what the person's saying. If we don't listen, customers won't engage. In turn, the service provider then doesn't respond and the whole thing escalates. And the consequence is to alienate the person and miss an important opportunity to fix something, maybe for the person, but maybe for lots of others. So in this realm of checking our biases, I throw out to you 5 questions. Are we listening with care, particularly if the complainant is having trouble expressing himself? Are we being sensitive to the complaint, regardless of the behavior in front of us or on the phone? Are we recognizing the importance of being attentive to the wholeness of the communication, to what's not being said, to the body language, as well as to what is being said? Are we expanding our own perspectives by listening respectfully to understand and learn from the complainant? These are really easy questions. They're really hard to practice, especially if you're in the business of providing service to folks who don't fit that middle-class, educated mold that are so much easier to deal with. Complaints should trigger innovation. There are endless opportunities for improvement by listening to those complaints, for creative thinking, for thinking outside the box, something we don't do a lot of in government. They can drive cultural change. They're also a cost-effective way of staying ahead of the curve, understanding what people are concerned about, what they're complaining about. It's really a great opportunity to get rid of obsolete rules, policies, and make things more people-friendly. In the public sector, fiscal restraint and the gap between service expectation and reality is actually driving innovation. There's a wonderful example of innovation in the UK called Tell Us Once. It's an online service where the person can email in telling the government about a death in the family or a friend once. That's it. It's over. It saves unbelievable emotional and financial costs around the bereavement administration. So simple. I bet it took them years to dream that up. It's often the simplest of ideas that saves all that money and stress and time. But we really do have to think outside the box and be prepared to take risks. Adobe holds customer service days where they immerse managers in the customer's most infuriating problems. How easy is that to do? We need to seek the smallest intervention to make the biggest change in our system. Edward de Bono talks about a conflict not so much as a problem, but as a situation that can develop one way or the other. And he says that you exercise judgment and it freezes the situation, whereas better thinking and coming up with the ideas can improve the situation. As society becomes more affluent, the expectation for better service and speedier solutions speeds up. So complaints are just on the rise everywhere we go. We're not going to get rid of them. So mine the free data. And remember, if you don't innovate, you perish.